Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sports Debates. The NBA playoffs have arrived. In fact, they are underway right now. So by the time you watch this video, some of the games might be over, but that won't change our predictions or anything. So we're going to go through each series. We're going to give our predictions and then continue on to the NBA Finals. See who we have crowned as the champions of the 2022 NBA season. All right. So just a quick recap. The play-in tournament happened in the Western Conference. We saw the Pelicans take down the Clippers, the final play-in series to take the 8th seed. The Timberwolves took the 7th seed after beating the Clippers. And in the Eastern Conference, the Hawks beat the Cavs. They took the 8th seed, and the Nets beat the Cavs to take the 7th seed. So, starting the Western Conference, first game, simple 1-8 matchup. The number one Phoenix Suns, the defending Western Conference champions, had the best record in the NBA, 64-18, and they'll be facing the New Orleans Pelicans, who were not the 8th seed going into these playoffs, but earned it through the play-in tournament. In the season series, the Suns won 3 out of 4 games they faced against the Pelicans. So, Emmanuel, this one should be pretty simple. Tell me about who wins this.
Easily goes to the Suns. 4-0 series, quick in and out.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a one game quibble. It's like it's either going to be over in 4 or 5. I think that the Pelicans are sneaky enough. They could win a game. CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, they're good enough to steal a game, but it really is not going to matter. I agree with Emmanuel. Either a clean sweep or Suns in 5.
Yeah, the one argument I've heard against it not being a sweep is just that the Phoenix hasn't played in a while, and New Orleans is coming off 2 big wins, so they've kind of got energy. So if anything, they might sneak in and take the first game, just catch the Suns off guard. But the Suns will take that easily. All right, so then they will face the winner of 4-5, which is the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz. They're playing right now. They split their season series 2 games each in the regular season. The Mavericks, they had their most wins since their 2011 championship season with Dirk and gang at 52-30, and they won 20 of their last 27 to finish the season. The Jazz, on the other hand, took a step back from the last couple of years of being the top seed in the West, but still a top 3 team. However, they lost 7 of the final 11 games, including blowing 2 20-point leads. So, Aiden, who wins this series?
I was thinking the Mavs, but we have to remember Luka isn't playing in the game that's happening as we speak. And there's a chance he won't play in the next game, I believe. And those are 2 Mavs home games. And so imagine the Jazz. Luka doesn't play in the first 2 games. Imagine the Jazz go 2-0, and then they have like 3 of the last 2 games or 5 games at home. And I think that even though the Mavs have been really good this year, I think they're carried by Luka so much that even if he misses this game and maybe one more, I think that that's enough for the Jazz to win. So I'm going to say Jazz in 7, maybe even 6. It depends. I think that the Jazz have better overall players than the Mavs because think about Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, arguably all NBA this year. I just think the Jazz can overpower the Mavs, especially if Luka's going to miss a couple games. So yeah, I'm gonna say Jazz in 7.
That's nice. I'm gonna go with the Jazz in 5.
Oof.
I feel like they're gonna take these 2 home games in Dallas away. They're gonna lose. Utah's gonna lose 1 game at home, and the rest is just gonna be history. I don't see the Mavericks having any big guy to stop Gobert, and I just feel like Jordan he's gonna have a very good playoff series this time. So I feel like it's going to be a 5-game series in favor of the Jazz.
Yeah, I didn't update my notes here for Luka's injury. So I originally did have Dallas winning in 5, because I really liked what they did this season. They have a nice 3 guard weapon that they sometimes bring out. They play all 3 of Doncic, Dinwiddie, and Brunson. I mean, they use Luka a lot. He was second in usage rate. And what Emmanuel said, I don't really think they have a big guy that can compete with Gobert. Um, but now with Luka being questionable for the next couple games, um, I'm gonna stick with the Mavericks, assuming Luka comes back for the later games. But it's gonna be a 7-game series, so they're gonna fight for it and earn it. Only because the Jazz have kind of proved to be just a regular season team. Last couple years, they were like best record in the league, and then they choked in the playoffs. Their shooting is 50-50. Sometimes they have really lights out games. Other times they couldn't shoot the ball. So I'm going to go Mavericks in 7. Number 2, Grizzlies versus the number 7 Timberwolves. And they also split their season series 2-2. The home team won each of those games. So Memphis surprised the world with the second best record in the NBA at 50-26, led by the fan favorite, face of the league, possibly the next couple of years, Ja Morant. And they won 19 of their last 22 games at home. They were one of 3 teams to win 30 home games this season. They were the top team scoring in the paint, 4th in offensive rating, 1st in fast break points, 1st and second chance points. So just a very exciting team. And they faced the young Timberwolves, who went 14-6 over the last 20 games. So it'll be a very physical and competitive series. This is a pretty exciting one. I like both these teams, and I don't want to see either of them go home yet. But Emmanuel, who you got?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna change my bracket just a bit. I'm gonna stick with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm gonna say it's gonna go to a game 7. I don't see Ja Morant by himself being able to carry that team all the way through the series. He's going to get tired. He's going to get fatigued. He's not going to be able to produce like he should. While the Minnesota Timberwolves have Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, and Karl Anthony Towns. That is a big 3 right there. Underrated big 3, but a big 3 nonetheless.
So surprisingly, what's his name? Ja Morant. He got injured to end the season, right? He only played about 55 games or so. But the Grizzlies had a 17-2 record without him. That's astounding to me that you can lose your best player and still be that good. So I disagree. I don't think that they rely too heavily on Ja. I think that he's their best player, obviously, and he's had an amazing season. But they have a lot of depth around him. Desmond Bane made a huge jump this year. Might be the favorite for most improved player. He's averaging 18 a game. Dylan Brooks, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. is also Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's averaging like the most steals and blocks combined in the league. I think that they're really deep, a lot deeper than the Timberwolves. And I don't think you can consider that a big 3 in Minnesota. D'Angelo Russell's historically a high volume shooter, not very efficient, can't really play defense. We haven't seen them in the playoffs before, so it is sort of a mystery. But I just think that that Memphis is a lot better coached, a lot more depth, and I do think they have the best player in the series. So I'm gonna say the Grizzlies in 6. It might even be 5, but I think 6. You gotta give the Timberwolves some credit. They do have momentum, winning the playing game. But yeah, I'm gonna say Grizzlies in 6.
Yeah, Grizzlies in 6 as well. Timberwolves still a very talented team. Towns has had some amazing games. Dropped 60 earlier this year, I think it was. So, assuming he don't foul out like he did in the playing game, they'll hold their ground for at least 2 games, I think. But the main problem I have with them is that they struggled defensively this year. Their opponents averaged 21 and a half transition points a game, and the team was 28th in defensive rebounding, despite having Towns and some other big guys. So I just think Memphis is just the better team overall. They're really fun to watch, really fast paced and energetic. And they've got a lot of underrated players. So I got Memphis in 6. The number 3 Warriors and the number 6 Nuggets. So the Nuggets actually won that season series 3-1. So the Warriors, they went off to a hot start. They were 18-2 in their first 20 games. They're first in the West. It looked like the dynasty was back. It looked like we were about to run through another Warriors domination of the league. They kind of fell off during the middle of the season. Curry started slumping, but they stayed consistently top 3 in the West. The Nuggets, they were 48-34, one more win than their previous season, and of course led by the defending MVP, Nikola Jokic. So, Aiden, who wins this series?
Man, this is going to be a great series. Talk about talent, talk about powerhouse. I mean, the Warriors versus the Nuggets. I got to talk myself into picking a winner here. I mean, to me, this series goes 7. It's just going to be a great series. It depends if Jamal Murray and or Michael Porter return for the Nuggets. It's sort of a contingent upon them. I would pick the Warriors in 7. I picked the Warriors in 7 only if neither guy returns. But Curry, I think, will have a really good series. I don't see anybody on Denver that could really stop him. He's also not going to be 100% healthy. He's coming off missing games towards the end of the season. Draymond versus Jokic will be an interesting defensive matchup. Oh man, I can't pick a definitive winner. I'm gonna go with the Warriors in 7. And honestly, I don't think it's gonna be like, even if Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. comes back, I still think the Warriors are a better team. And Jokic is Jokic, and he is probably gonna win the MVP this year. But I think Draymond is also one of the best defensive players in the league and could still do really well against Jokic. So yeah, I'm gonna go Warriors in 7.
I'm gonna say Warriors in 6. A little less. Golden State's really nice. Got Curry, or should have, hopefully have Curry back in time. Clay's he's the variable that's gonna make or break this part of my bracket. If he produces like he normally does in the playoffs before he got hurt, easily Warriors take it and run away with it for a good bit. The Joker, he's a great player. I don't think Warriors have anybody that can really stop him. But man, do the Warriors have such a good lineup. Jordan Poole coming up there, great on defense. I don't know. It's looking really obvious to pick the Warriors for the series in 6.
So, yeah, I mean, you've got Curry, Thompson, and Green. Like, we knew what they did. They got the 3 rings against Cleveland. So they are a dangerous trio in the playoffs. However, they only played 11 minutes together during the regular season because they were all injured at different times. Curry's question for game 1. So, yeah, it comes down to, are these guys going to hit their playoff level again? Because playoff Thompson, playoff Curry, those guys are dominant. You can't stop them. And when you have all 3 of them playing, that's going to take pressure off of guys like Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, who kind of had to be that number 2, number 3 to Curry before Thompson came back. So I have the Warriors in 6, and that's only because I don't see the Nuggets being able to do much without Jokic. So the times that he's resting, there's an interesting stat I found in the season series when they played each other. Golden State outscored Denver by 19 when Jokic was resting. And then the Warriors struggled the same way when Curry was resting. And so the total score of the series when they were both on the court was 192-192. So I found that pretty interesting. But the main thing there is that the Denver struggles to score when Jokic isn't on the floor. Not only because he scores a lot of points, but also he pretty much runs the floor for them. And we see his assist numbers and stuff. So Nuggets have a shot here. I would not be surprised if they were able to pull out a series win, but right now I've got the Warriors in 6.
So I think we could agree that the Nuggets have the best player in the series. I know, Emmanuel, you're a big Curry guy. But the way that their form is right now, Jokic is coming off another MVP season most likely, and Curry's sort of coming off an injury. So the Nuggets have the best player in the series. But I think the Warriors have the next best 4 or 3. I think that Thompson, Draymond, Jordan Poole has had an amazing season, most improved player for me, honestly. And even Andrew Wiggins are better than the Nuggets' next 4 guys. And I think Aaron Gordon might be the only guy you might say could be better than any of them. But I don't know. Like I said, depth is a huge factor. I would expect Jokic to play a lot more, or he'll play a lot of minutes, like 40-some minutes, because he needs to. But the Warriors are just so much deeper and have a lot better guys around their best player. That's what I would say.
All right, on to the round 2. We'll fly through the later rounds a little quicker just because they're hypothetical situations, but we'll still follow through with our predictions. All right, so round 2. We all had Phoenix going through. I have Phoenix facing Dallas. You two have Phoenix facing Utah. So Emmanuel, start us off. Who wins that series?
I have Phoenix winning in 5 against Utah. I feel like Utah takes a game away from them, like when they feel too comfortable and they think they got the series in lock. But Utah comes in, snatches the game away, but Phoenix get back on guard and snatches the series away for 4-1.
Yeah, I would go Phoenix in 6. Either Mavs or Dallas, honestly, pretty much the same to me. Just because, Phoenix is just a lot better than either of those teams. I might even agree with Emmanuel that it might only be 5 games. But Phoenix isn't impenetrable. They don't have a super overpowering best player. Like Booker and Chris Paul are very, very good players. They're not top 10 players. And so Luka would be the best player in the series theoretically. So stuff like that tends to at least give them a couple games. So yeah, I'd go Utah losing in 6, or even Dallas losing in 6. But yeah, Phoenix is definitely not going to have a tough time.
Yeah, I have. Oh my, I forgot I did this. I had Phoenix sweeping Dallas. So I think Phoenix, goes all out in the series, I guess. So there's a sweep there. All right, and then the next series, me and Aiden have Golden State facing Memphis. Manuel has Golden State facing the Timberwolves. So Aiden, who wins that series?
Theoreticals. I think the Grizzlies. I like Ja just outplaying Curry in that series. For some reason, like Ja's like young, athletic, stuff like in shape. And not the Curry's out of shape, but I just think that Ja, that's the kind of passing of the torch for me, where Ja just overpowers Curry. And the depth, both teams are very deep. But I just feel like chemistry, I don't think the Warriors have the same chemistry they've had in years past. This team has had a lot of different forms, guys being injured. Draymond missed a good chunk of the year. But this Memphis team has had very good chemistry throughout the year. Like I said, 17-2 without Ja. So I think this is going to go 7. And I would say Grizzlies in 7.
I got Golden State versus Minnesota, like Ryan said. I got Golden State winning in 5 against Minnesota. And let's say I'm wrong, Minnesota lose to Memphis, which would be heartbreaking for me, but still enjoyable to watch. But I feel like Golden State won't even have to necessarily put Curry onto John Morant because Curry would absolutely get cooked by John Morant on defense. They could put maybe somebody like Jordan Poole on him because Jordan Poole has some excellent defense that we've seen this whole entire year, which was slow down but not stop John Morant. They possibly move Draymond Green out of position, put him up against John Morant, which could be possible. They just got so many defenders that I see it making it very hard for them.
Yeah, I had Memphis in 6. I originally, when I first made my bracket, I got really excited with the Warriors making the playoffs, and I see it. I wrote them all the way to the final. But I thought about it, and I was like, hold on, let's be realistic here. Warriors could very well go on a run again. They could just snap back to their 2016 selves and be unstoppable. But I think that Memphis is just going to be too much to handle for them. Warriors might get a little too confident, even though they are the lower seed in this situation. But I just think Memphis will be able to, just younger, faster team. I think they'll be able to get them in 6 games.
What was the head-to-head record for that? Do you have that on hand?
Golden State only won one of the 4 matchups.
I got Phoenix versus Golden State. I got Phoenix winning 4-2 against Golden State, which is really difficult for me to choose because they're both very good teams. It possibly could go to a game 7 buzzer beater. And I feel like that buzzer beater would go to Devin Booker. Right now, y'all can quote me on this later in the future. Say I'm a psychic or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna go Phoenix. I feel like they just outplay them with their big 3, and Golden State probably won't be able to handle it. That's my prediction, at least.
Phoenix in 6. I just look at Phoenix. I look at the Suns as a much more experienced, mature team compared to Memphis. Memphis has a lot of talent, a lot of potential, but Chris Paul to me is just going to pick them apart. He's going to be Chris Paul and do Chris Paul things. And Booker, I think, will have a good series too. So yeah, I'd go Phoenix in 6.
I have Phoenix in 7 against the Grizzlies. Grizzlies won 2 of the 3 matchups they faced against the Suns this year. So, but I still think Phoenix is just the better team. I mean, they really don't have much of a different team than they had last year. They've got the same guys, the same starting 5, and they've gotten better. They've learned from their mistakes last year, right? They got a little too comfortable in the finals, winning those first 2 games, blew it. So I think they're ready to go now into the finals and take it back. Chris Paul's older, but he's got the experience now to play in the finals. Booker had a really good year. Bridges, Ayton, Crowder, same group as last year. So I think that they'll be able to take down Memphis and go right back to the finals. All right, now on to the Eastern Conference. So to start things off, we've got the 1-8 matchup. It is the number 1 Miami Heat versus the number 8 Atlanta Hawks, who were the 9 seed going into this play-in tournament, but won against Cleveland to take the 8 seed. The Heat won that season series 3-1. The Heat had the top record in the East with 53-29, and they led the NBA in 3-point percentage. The Hawks, they were 43-39, and they were only 10 games behind the Heat in the standings. That's how close the Eastern Conference was. They may be without Capella and Collins for some of the games in the series, or all of them. They were second in offensive rating, and they had 7 players that averaged 10 or more points per game. So, Emmanuel, who wins this series?
I really want to say Atlanta Hawks, and they beat them in 4, but I'm gonna have to change my pick. I'm gonna go with the Miami Heat. Miami beats the Hawks, even though the Miami Heat are really just frauds and they're going to lose anyway. But without Clint Capella, Bam Adebayo is going to feast, and that's just the tragedy waiting to happen. So Miami in 4, clean sweep.
Yeah, so to me, there's two possibilities of this series. First is upset. Atlanta beats Miami. That's the one option. That would be like 7 games, really good series. Or Miami just shows Atlanta that Atlanta sucks because Atlanta sucked this year. They had high expectations after going to the conference finals last year. They were the 10 seed, and won the play-in game, yes, and then got to the 8 seed, but had a disappointing season. And now that they don't have their two big men, I agree. I don't see how they deal with Bam. I think that they just lose the rebounding affair tremendously. And so yeah, I think that it would be a catastrophic series for Atlanta. I think they lose in like 4 or 5, probably 5 games. I think Trae Young's good enough to steal one, but I just think Miami's much better coach, much better big men with Adebayo. So yeah, I want to go Miami in 5, but even without those guys or them missing a couple games, I think that Atlanta's dangerous. Trae Young is probably could be the best player in the series. So just like a Dallas versus Golden State series, no, Dallas versus Phoenix, Atlanta could have the best player in the series. So watch out. But I am gonna go Miami in 5.
I have Miami in 6. I originally had Miami in 7 before those injuries, and that's only because when I was watching the game last night, I was like, "Oh, great, here we go again with Atlanta. Trae Young being ridiculous, and we saw what they could do last year when they got hot in the playoffs." Um, and going into this season, I thought they were going to be a much higher seed based on what they did at the end of last year. I thought they'd ride that momentum and maybe be like a 4 or 5 seed, maybe even a 3. Heck, I mean, and so they had a disappointing regular season, but really, if they're getting hot now, then Miami better watch out. But with those injuries, I think Miami will still be able to hold on. Like we said, that with the 3-point percentage leading the league, very tenacious defense. I think that they'll pull off a series win. But I would not be surprised if the Hawks came out on top just because what they can do in the playoffs and Trae Young being ridiculous. And then I would want the Sixers to lose because I don't want to play the Hawks again. So, yeah, they would then face the winner of Sixers and Raptors. The 4-5 matchup. Raptors won that season series 3-1. As Sixers fans, we had to sit through those awful games. So the Sixers season started 16-16. They found themselves 9th in the East and out of the playoffs at that point. They went 35-15 since then. And along the way, they picked up MVP James Harden to join Joel Embiid. However, with Harden, they were 7-6 against playoff teams. So the main problem for them have been their bench depth and Harden's late season shooting slump. However, when both of them were on the floor, they outscored opponents by 15.9 points per 100 possessions. The Raptors started 14-17, 12th in the East. Then they went on a big run as well, 34-17 since that mark, and went 7-2 against top 4 teams in either conference. So that team, very underrated. They swarm the ball, they force turnovers, first in opponent turnover rate. They're a very dangerous team, and they showed that they can beat good teams. So, as Sixers fans, we're anxious, even though we're the top seed in this matchup, and we're hypothetically the better team. Yet, coming from us, we're very scared. So, Aiden, what happens here?
I said in the group chat, my bold prediction is that the Sixers lose in 6 games. And it's because of James Harden, honestly. To me, he had a horrid end of the season. Every game, it looked like he didn't try. He was constantly going 3 for 14, 2 for 12, missing all his threes, couldn't get to the line, couldn't get to the basket, couldn't draw fouls, couldn't do James Harden things, and disappointed us. And didn't play in important games. He didn't play the Heat when we had them in back-to-backs because of whatever fake injury he had. And I think that they're going to rely a lot on him. And if you can't deliver, they're not going to win. It's as simple as that. The bench they're just going to lose the bench matchup against the Raptors. The Raptors have a much better bench, much more depth, especially if Doc Rivers is not going to play Paul Reed. He's not going to play B-Ball Paul, my favorite player on the Sixers. And for some reason, he's going to think that DeAndre Jordan is more fit to play in the series. Guess what, guys? The Sixers lost to the Raptors because of their backup center 3 years ago, and the Raptors won the NBA Finals. If Doc Rivers can't figure out this backup center situation, they're not going to win. I think it's as simple as that series in 2019 where Greg Monroe had to play backup center and they lost every single minute he was on the floor. The Raptors themselves, I don't like, they're not like a crazy good team. I just think that they're going to play better. They're going to be coached better. And one thing, they're going to be able to guard Joel Embiid really well. Even though they don't have a big, good defensive center, they swarm double teams. They constantly send help. And Embiid has had 0-point games against that. Remember that game? He had like 0 points. He missed all his free throws and was like over 14. That's a very real possibility. So it's a lot of negativity. I'm sorry, but I'm just preparing myself. Like the Phillies, I'm preparing the Sixers to suck and for everything to go wrong. So if somebody wants to take off that negativity, go ahead. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I'm not going to be the one to take off that negativity right now. I'm just going to be truthful with y'all. Sixers are, how do you say this nicely? I'm not even going to put it nicely. They are big disappointments. You get Harden, and still to this day, I think we gave up way too much to get Harden. Joel Embiid, I was hoping Harden was going to be the help Joel Embiid really needed for the end of the season, possibly push us to the #1 seed. Harden has been playing horrific. Worse than Russell Westbrook, some will say. Tobias Harris, he's been doing up and down like a little roller coaster, having good games, very bad games, mostly very bad games. Maxey, I feel like this is going to be the series where we're going to depend on him the most, honestly. He's honestly the Sixers' future point guard. Our bench is, well, troublesome. I don't see us winning off the bench. We're probably going to have one of our starters out, either James Harden come off the bench. Most likely James Harden come off the bench. I don't see Joel Embiid not starting. But yeah, I say Toronto wins in 5.
All right. Well, I'm a very pessimistic Philadelphia fan. If you know me, I mean, just yesterday I did my rant against the Philly. I already called the season over last night with the Phillies. We're 8 games in, so I'm not one to be excited. But I decided I'm going to have hope, just a tad, and I'm gonna put the Sixers down as a win. All right, and I'm gonna give them this series in hopes that it works, because in past I always predict this Philadelphia team's going nowhere in hopes that they go somewhere. So now I'm trying to do opposite. They really make me mentally unstable, these Philadelphia teams. So but yeah, I have Sixers in 7. It's gonna have to be a 7-game series. But I think they're going to pull it off. The biggest downside is that Thibault will be out for games 3 and 4. So we lose big defense there. So I think those will be games that the Raptors win. But during the season series, Sixers had 46 turnovers in those 4 games. That was 11.6 per game. And 70% of their field goals, however, were from the assists. So they assisted 70% of their field goals during that series. So they had to move the ball a little more with the swarming of the Raptors defense. In those final 2 meetings, the Sixers outscored the Raptors by 15 and Embiid's 75 total minutes on the court. And in his 21 minutes on the bench, they were outscored 61-36. So Embiid is really a big X factor here. So if he's just on the court consistently, and then the time that he rests, you put in Paul Reed as the backup center. And I think the way my dad put it was maybe James Harden is getting playoff Harden out early. That last couple weeks of the season, that was Harden missing all his shots to get it out of the way. So I think Sixers pull it off. Why? I don't know, but I'm going with it. Sixers in 7. Yeah.
I think that the Sixers is like the biggest ceiling basement team in the league right now. They could win the finals. They could lose in 5 to the Raptors because they have the best duo on paper, like Harden at least what he was last year in Brooklyn, and Embiid is the best duo in the league, I think. But if Harden is like playoff Harden, like years past in Houston, then it's Embiid and honestly like a negative value James Harden, who's going to be shooting 20%, 10 turnovers, and doesn't play defense. That's just a negative performance from him, and that's really going to hurt us. So to me, it's all up to Harden. He either plays like Harden we know can play like, or he plays like the playoff Harden we know can play like, which is terrible. So to me, Harden's the biggest X factor. I know the secondary X factor is Embiid's off minutes, but Harden is the grand factor of the Sixers right now, and I'm gonna have fun watching them, but I'm expecting them to lose.
Emmanuel, what's the headline if the Sixers do win the series? Like, what went right for them? What was the biggest storyline?
The biggest thing that went right for us was, of course, James Harden performing at an abnormal performance rate he usually has in the playoffs. I can see James Harden posting up at least a double multiple games. I see Tyrese Maxey doing more than he usually does, and that's saying a lot because I'm pretty sure he's been dropping around like 20 points per game and averaging close to a double. I see our bench stepping up big time. I see Joel Embiid staying healthy, which is a serious problem with Joel Embiid over the past couple of years. But yeah, I think those are the big memories of if we do win, which I hope we do.
Aiden, would you be confident in any first round matchup the Sixers would have had this season out of any of these playoff teams? Would we be confident in any series?
Chicago. For some reason, Chicago strikes me as a team we would beat. Embiid owns Chicago. Embiid has played very well against Chicago. And it's not like this series where Matisse is going to be out at least 3 of those games. But he wouldn't be out against the Bulls. I think Embiid destroys the Bulls. But they have to get to the conference finals for this team to stay intact. So to me, first round matchup, it's like it could be their downfall, but the second round could also be their downfall too. So to me, that this series is important to win, but they could still very easily lose the next round.
All right, speaking of Chicago, the next series is Milwaukee and Chicago Bulls. So Milwaukee was the 3 seed, the defending champions, against number 6 Bulls. The Bucks swept them during the regular season. All 4 games they played went to the Bucks. The Bucks were 15-6 after the All-Star break. They were kind of just consistently good all year. They never really took off and dominated the league, but they never really slumped. They were just the Bucks, They were 5th in 3-point percentage. 43% of their shots came from the 3-point range. That was 6th in the league. However, they were 20th in defensive rating since the All-Star break. The Bulls started off hot, 39-21 on February 24th. They were first in the East. Since that date, they were 7-15 and 2-21 against teams that ranked in the top 4 of their conference. DeRozan looked like an MVP during their hot stretch. And against the Bucks, he averaged 31.3 games. Bulls were 28th in rebounding. So Aiden, who wins this series?
I'm gonna say the Bucks in 4. I think if they sweep the regular season, I don't see why they don't sweep the playoffs. The Bucks are they're a bad matchup for the Bulls. Vucevic or whoever is their big man just can't guard Giannis. And the Bucks do have the weapons to guard Levine and DeRozan, with Middleton and with Drew Holiday. So I think the Bucks just match up perfectly. It might go 5. The Bulls might steal a game, but to me, the Bucks are just a lot better, match up really well. So I'm gonna say the Bucks sweep.
Yeah, I can see it going 5 games in the favor of the Bucks. Honestly, don't see Chicago putting up much of a fight throughout the series. I mean, of course, they'll win a game, but the rest of the series they're going to be pretty silent, not be able to stop Giannis, Drew Holiday, any of them. And it's honestly just going to be a disappointing year for Chicago. I mean, they made the playoffs. Congrats. Other than that, they're going to be a first round exit.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the Bulls heading into the season. I thought they had a pretty sneaky lineup. I liked the way DeRozan was playing. But just Lonzo Ball went out with the injury, and then everything just wasn't clicking with them. They fell apart. So I think there's no coming back from that. I have a Bucks sweep as well. I'm most excited for is Grayson Allen versus Alex Caruso. Fans will have fun with that. But yeah, that's a Bucks sweep. All right, and then final first round matchup is the number 2 Boston Celtics versus the best number 7 seed you've ever seen, the Brooklyn Nets. Celtics, however, did win that season series. They won 3 or 4 matchups. So the Celtics started off 25-25 the first 50 games. They were in 10th place at that time. Then they went on a 26-6 final 32 game stretch and took the number 2 seed. They had 18 wins by 20 plus points. However, they were 13-22 in close games. The Nets started out hot. They were the opposite, 23-9 start, and found themselves at 29-21 by the 50 game mark, finished the season 15-17. Kyrie missed 29 games with the vaccine. Durant missed 27 games of injury. Harris was knocked out for the season in November. Harden struggled before he was traded. So things weren't going right for the Nets early on, despite their record. But the Celtics far out defend the Nets. Celtics were the top-rated defensive team. Nets were 20th. But no team scored more efficiently against the Nets than Boston. So, Emmanuel, who wins this series?
I got Brooklyn sweeping Boston, which is, I know, probably a hot take, but
Goodness.
after seeing Kyrie pop off during that last play-in tournament, which, mind you, he didn't miss a shot, and I'm not meaning this metaphorically, like he couldn't miss a shot. He made every single shot. He made these impossible double-team shots, nothing but net. And KD, he did great. He did KD. Like, it's hard to explain it, but it's just Kevin Durant. He never underperforms, or he rarely ever does. And I feel like Ben Simmons, he is supposed to come back during the series. Hope he plays terrible. Stays healthy, but plays terrible. But other than that, I feel like Brooklyn cleanly sweeps them. I don't think Boston has enough firepower to beat Brooklyn.
That is a hot take. That is a very hot take. He did actually miss shots in the playing game, but that's okay.
Really?
He did. Yeah, he missed a couple shots, but
Yeah, perfect.
he did play very well. Yeah. I like the idea of Brooklyn being really good and winning this series, but I don't see it. I think that Boston's going to win. I think Boston's going to win in 6. Now, I know that Brooklyn has Kevin Durant, who is probably the best scorer, definitely the best scorer in the league, and maybe one of the best scorers ever. And I know they have Kyrie Irving, but who else do they have besides that? I know Ben Simmons is rumored to come back as early as Game 4, but they suck outside of those 2 or maybe 3 guys. Seth Curry has been injured, I believe, and just would get exposed defensively in the playoffs. Andre Drummond, same thing. Robert Williams, Time Lord on Boston. It will probably come back in the series at some point. Now, like Ryan said, the Boston Celtics were the best defensive team in the league this season. I think that means something. That means a lot. And Brooklyn can't defend at all. They give up 120 points a game. They just can't defend. To me, that never works out in Brooklyn's favor. I think that Boston is just that much better defensively. Marcus Smart had yet again another Defensive Player of the Year season. And Jason Tatum, I could see Jason Tatum. No, I know it's crazy. I can see Jason Tatum outplaying Durant in this series. Durant might. He's always questionable whether he'll be healthy or not. At least recently. And they're just deeper. They have better. Honestly, their coach has probably been better this year too. So I'm gonna go with what I've seen this year, and I've seen Boston be really good. So I'm gonna say that Boston continues that scorching hot going into the playoffs. I think they continue that, and they beat Brooklyn, especially on the defensive end, and they win in 6 games.
I have got Boston in 7. Think it'd be a good series. Even though Boston is a great defensive team. I think Brooklyn still has the 2 best scorers on the planet right now, so I think they'll be able to pull off games for sure. But I'm looking at their season series against the Celtics. There were a couple games where they didn't have Durant and Kyrie, but that last game on March 6th, everyone was healthy, everyone was playing, and Tatum dropped 54 on them. So I just really like the Celtics going in here. I really like Tatum. If you remember, I put him in my top 10. So I think that Boston pulls off the series win 4-3. Round 2. The Miami Heat, for me, will be taking on the Sixers. For you two, will be taking on the Toronto Raptors. So Aiden, who wins this series?
I know you guys think that Miami's overrated, and I agree to an extent, but I think that in my scenario here, I think that Miami beats the Raptors. To me, the Raptors are just a Walmart version of the Heat. They are led by a very good all-around forward in Pascal Siakam, but I think Bam Adebayo is just better, and I think Jimmy Butler is better than Scotty Barnes or OG Anunoby. And overall, I just like the Heat to just outplay the Raptors in that series. So I would go Miami in 6.
Toronto beats Miami in 6 as well. I just see Miami just not performing as they should. Of course, I really thought they was already going to lose to the Atlanta Hawks before the injury happened, so it wouldn't even been them facing Toronto, and Toronto probably would have lost to the Atlanta Hawks due to Trae Young and his crazy ability to shoot for almost anywhere on the court. But Toronto, to me, Toronto beat the Sixers, and Toronto didn't have 2 of their starters, and we still got obliterated by them. When I mean obliterated, it might have been a close game. I don't remember the score off the top of my head, but the fact that we lost them without 2 of our starters is insane to me. They got Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes. Their lineup is almost beautiful.
Yeah, so I have Miami facing the Sixers. So I thought very long and hard about this. Obviously, Heat aren't as good as their record will say, but they're still very talented team. So they split the season series 2-2. And I think the most memorable one for Sixers fans is the one in which Embiid and Harden both sat out, and the Sixers bench, led by Maxey, pulled off a pretty impressive win with the shorthanded roster. So, again, it's going to be another long series for the Sixers. We're talking 6-7 games. I feel like the Sixers can accidentally make the Eastern Conference Finals in this series. Embiid played pretty well against the Heat this season. He did play 3 games, averaged 23, 13, and 3. Butler was pretty good against the Sixers. He also played 3 games, 18, 6, and 4. I could flip flop either way. Either of these two teams, like not, I don't want to send either of them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I don't see either of them as really worthy right now. But I got Sixers and 7 again. So, all right, and then see who they face. We go down to Milwaukee. We all Milwaukee, facing Boston for me and Aiden, and Milwaukee versus Brooklyn for Emmanuel. So Emmanuel, who you got?
I got Brooklyn in a game 7 against Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it's going to go down to a very clutch shot. Once again, going to be for 3. Calling it now. I can see the future. KD is going to hit the 3. Make sure the foot is not on the line this time. And is going to go down. He's going to make it. And Brooklyn's going to advance to the conference finals.
This one is too theoretical for me to like be super hot takey about it. I'm sort of just going based off what I know about these two teams. I think that Milwaukee, I just think Giannis is just gonna do what he did last year in the playoffs again. I like Boston, but I don't think they match up well with Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee is just better overall. Giannis should do really well. 6 or 7. 7 would incline that it's a really close series. So I'm going to say my classic 6 games, Milwaukee wins it. But I could see Boston. I could see Boston doing well, making a run. But yeah, I just think Giannis is too good.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Boston will be able to guard Giannis too much, but I think they can guard any other weapons that he has. So he might have to do it all himself. I think they can limit Middleton's shots. So I have Boston in 6. I think Boston. I'm riding Boston. I like Boston this year. So I've got Boston 6. All right, so Eastern Conference Finals. I've got Sixers and Celtics. Aiden's got Bucks and Heat. And then Emmanuel has got Nets and Raptors.
We have the all different conference
So, yeah.
finals.
Very interesting. So
Really great.
Aiden, you start.
I think mine's the most boring. I'll give myself that. I think Miami and Milwaukee are the 2 best teams in the East. I feel like I'm that guy right now in the March Madness bracket. They only picks like the 1 seeds. I have Phoenix in the finals, and I'm gonna choose Milwaukee in the finals. I think it's gonna be a rematch. I think that they're just the 2 best teams in the league. I don't know. Giannis to me, he's gonna be like a top 15 player of all time if these scenarios come true. He's gonna make the finals again. He's gonna get at least 3rd in the MVP. I don't know. He's just really good. I do think that Milwaukee's not a true contender, or sorry, Miami's not a true contender. I don't think they can make the finals. I think they're bound to lose before getting there. So yeah, I'll go Milwaukee in 7.
I got Brooklyn and Toronto as my conference finals. Now, before I announce how many games it's going to take for this team to win, which, by the way, I'm going Brooklyn wins it, I am factoring in fatigue because I did say Brooklyn would beat Milwaukee in a game 7 final. So I'm saying Toronto versus Brooklyn, game 7. Brooklyn takes it, but I honestly think it would probably be a clean sweep series if Brooklyn probably wasn't so fatigued from their last one. And honestly, Brooklyn just has better weapons. And I'm pretty sure by then Ben Simmons will probably be fully healthy. He may not be the best offensive producer, but he is a very good defensive player. And he can see the floor well, as we saw with him going in for that possible dunk and passing it out to the corner. Got to throw a little shade at Ben Simmons. And I'm a Sixers fan after all. But yeah, Brooklyn wins game 7, advances to the finals.
All right, I promise you I'm done with the Sixers. All right. I've got Boston going to the finals. I think it'll be a bloodbath against the Sixers. It'll be a 5-game series. But it's not just because I think Boston's better than the Sixers, but I really do think Boston has a chance to be the best. Like, they are worthy of best team in the East. They have really good defense. Tatum is just getting better every year. He could be top 5 by next year if he really can be a superstar this playoffs. Jaylen Brown is a great number 2 to him. And just their whole team has just, it's very balanced offensively and defensively. So I think I can call them the best team in the East when it's all said and done. And I have them going to the finals. All right. So in the finals, I've got Phoenix and Boston. Aiden's got Phoenix, Milwaukee. Emmanuel's got Phoenix, Brooklyn. So we all agree on Phoenix. We all got different matchups for them. I will start by saying I have Phoenix in 6. I think this is their year. I think they'll get it back. As I said earlier, I think they'll be able to learn from any mistakes they made last year against the Bucks. Starting off hot, getting a little too comfortable. I think they've got the same core group. They've got the same players, and they've just gotten better this year. So I've got Phoenix in 6. Emmanuel.
Well, I absolutely hate to say this, but Phoenix versus Brooklyn. Brooklyn wins in game 6. Chris Paul will never get that ring he so desires, but which is heartbreaking because I love Chris Paul, especially after he played with OKC for a bit. But yeah, Chris Paul, he won't get the ring. Devin Booker will once again be disappointed. That Brooklyn big 3 is going to be a problem if of course they don't have any chemistry issues, because this will be the first time with Ben Simmons back. Or well, they have a couple of series, but if they make it that far and they no chemistry problems, easily win the NBA Finals in a game 6.
Now, Emmanuel, I think that scenario is very possible, but a lot of things have to go right for Brooklyn to make it that far. Like, yeah, they have like 2 of the best scorers in the league, but like I said, the other problems, like to me, that's a possibility. And I think if Ben Simmons comes back and it's really good, then they could just be amazing. For my finals, I think this finals that I have predicted will be a iconic series. For some reason, this Milwaukee Phoenix is like a new rivalry. 2 finals in a row. I think Phoenix wins it. I think that they've just been the best team in the league all season. One of the best 17 teams of all time, record-wise, by the way. So yeah, I like Chris Paul to finally get his ring. Winning 7 games, great series. Giannis fights hard, can't defeat the Splash Bros 2.0. Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I just think that they're built very well, coached very well. Iconic series that I have predicted, 7 games, buzzer beater by Chris Paul, we'll say. And yeah, I'm excited for this NBA playoffs.
All right. So that'll do it. We're going to do an episode soon on awards. Ran out of time today, but we're going to get that. We're going to get a good Jokic Embiid debate going from Sixers fans. That's pretty interesting, I say. But that'll be all for today. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.